What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show, and I'm your host Kevin Moore. For the next hour I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show I'm joined with Gigi Young, who is an intuitive consultant and spiritual development coach. She has been an intuitive all her life, moving into the professional arena over 5 years ago and attracting hundreds of clients worldwide. Now Gigi has her own YouTube channel where she brings up topics concerning spirit guides, the paradigm shift, alien abduction, starseeds, Atlantis, creativity, clairaudience, how to connect with your guides, energy updates, and much, much more. Gigi Young, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It is my pleasure to have you on, most definitely. And I was just saying off air there how, you know, you've come across my desktop screen quite a bit in a sense with browsing different, you know, as someone that's always looking for new people to interview and stuff. There's always the same people that come up sometimes or that's linked somewhere, and it's yourself that did. And I've started, looking at some of your videos, and I thought, well, this is really interesting. I love to get people who aren't out there on the circuit, as in some of the authors that I get on, in the UFO field or the consciousness field, and it's great to get someone like yourself on who's doing something a little bit different, I think, by really just sticking with YouTube, which I think, as we were saying off air as well, is a great platform.
Yeah, it definitely is. Lots of grassroots things happening on YouTube that I'm really proud to be part of. Yeah, no, I don't have a book out yet, maybe one day, but YouTube is my main platform.
That's interesting. A book one day. Okay. Well, just before we dive into about yourself as well, there's obviously a backstory to yourself. And now, as far as I understand, you were a model for 8 years.
Yes, that's my background.
That's your background. That's it. Move on.
Yes,
A model.
Fashion is where I originally came from, and I worked as a model for about 8 years, and then tapered off. And it really affected me. It gave me a lot of opportunities to read a lot, to travel, to see how people are, like just different cultures, different perspectives. I learned a lot about rejection. I just learned so much from that industry, a lot about aesthetics. And it's a huge part of who I am, and just everything. I owe a lot to that. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So
it's a weird mix, I guess. Psychic model, but you know what? I just go with it.
It's cool. I think anyone who judges or is just really needs to wake up a bit more. Okay. Well, that's kind of a cool background actually. You got to see the world.
Yeah.
Different cultures.
Yeah, and just how different people think and how different people believe, and it was really great. And I also got to be around really talented artists, and I saw these people who are so creative and who are just doing their own thing and succeeding and like doing well. Like you just friggin' made a shoe out of a horn, like an antler, and you're successful. So I might be able to be successful with my weird, so I think I really saw artists being successful, which made me kind of think like maybe I could. So
well, you mentioned the word weird there. That's okay. I think some of my friends think I'm weird as well. Do you think that I mean it's a silly word really that we use, but just a jokey joke between us. Do you feel that amongst your peers people thought that you were different?
Yeah, I mean, I have a new peer group now. I surround myself with fellow weirdos, and we just weird out together. But I think if it's not weird, I'm actually not interested. Like that's the kind of person I am.
Yeah.
But I think that as far as mainstream, I think the things that I talk about is getting there. But I think to most people, it's a polarizing thing, or I think it is. I mean, I talk about aliens on the internet. I make videos. So, cool. I mean, I think okay. A lot of people would be like, that's weird.
No, well, some may, but, maybe as, I mean, I shouldn't say that. I can say maybe as a woman, you get away with it a bit more.
Yeah, maybe. Do you think that, what would your reasoning be? That women would get away with it more?
I don't know. Maybe the feminine side's a bit more trusting. I don't know.
Oh, I can see that, and the feminine is usually more in touch with spirituality traditionally, so they might be able to. That's an interesting perspective. I know actually a lot of women actually YouTube about ETs. So.
Yes, they do. I mean, you go to these spiritual fairs as well, or it's mainly a female-dominated event. You know what I mean? Most times.
Yeah, I never realized that, and also, usually when it's males getting involved, it's usually more of like exopolitics. It's like a different. Sometimes they're not as. This may be just me, but sometimes I've noticed that they don't talk as much about the spirituality of it. They kind of talk about more of like the politics or more about the actual physical things. It's like they specialize in different. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, or pretty much the conspiracy side as well.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Which is fine if that's where you're at and that's what you need, and I think it is needed. But I mean, I think it's really all moves towards consciousness. I think that's what the whole work of what you do is about, really, and we'll get into that word a bit later on. Okay, so a model for 8 years, and I mean, you didn't really party much, did you, with your fellow peers? I mean,
I'm an old lady. I am an old lady in the 30-year-old's body. That's who I am. And I have been this way. Like, I knit. I am an old lady. And I have been this way since I was young. And I always felt like, when do you want to come out? And I'm sort of just an old lady. And I think as I get older, I'm thriving in it now. But when I was younger, no, I didn't really go out too much.
No, but that's cool. I mean, I think that's a sign of just re-remembering who you are, and we're all, no matter what age the body is, that there's an internal soul in there, I believe, and it has no age as we understand it. So it's just you woke up earlier.
Yeah, yeah. I guess that would
Make you feel better?
I also am sensitive, and like whenever I'd go, and I did have my times though. I did have my times out.
Tell us about the drugs and the sex and the rock and roll. Come on, okay.
I actually never with that end, but I've had my share of bumping elbows with like celebrities or VIP or like the party scene, but never to the degree that I think some girls get into it in fashion, which is a lot.
Well, yeah, and the drugs is probably quite big as well. I mean, I can't sit like a prune and say I've never done drugs or I never really partied much. You wouldn't, especially after this weekend. Yeah, it was pretty bad. But I'm single, so in the sense where I don't have to report to anyone. It's just myself. Do you know what I mean? If I was with someone, well, of course it'd be different. Do you know what I mean? But I need a blowout sometimes. We all do. But I think it's horses for courses. I think, and I think. There's no judgment, is there? Do you know what I mean? But I do resonate with you because my last partner, she was very much like that, in a sense, very old soul. Is that saying it the nice way?
That's nice.
Good.
An old lady soul.
An old lady soul. Yeah, but I think that's it's what I attracted. Do you know what I mean?
But what if it's just like a Benjamin Button soul? So like. It's even keel, but then when I turn 70, it's like I'm cutting loose all the time. Like, what if that's the story? No, I'm just kidding, but...
I don't know if I could keep up with that at 70. I'm not sure. I keep saying to myself now, it's got to end soon. You've got to behave yourself. You're supposed to be setting an example, Kevin. Okay, interesting. So you, and I've met so many people like yourself on this journey of interviewing people where they've just known who they were, they've known their truth at a young age, and it's just it's a beautiful thing to see as well, I think. So okay, now you was always intuitive as well then.
Yeah, I was always intuitive. I was always picking up information. I didn't always give myself credit or recognize my intuition. Everybody's intuitive, actually. Anybody can do what I do or what any intuitive does. You just have to recognize it and then start investing in it. But I wouldn't say, though, that I was like super clairvoyant and, when I was younger. Clairvoyant isn't my first clair. That's what most people associate with intuition and psychics, but I was definitely intuitive.
Yeah, so and again, as some people, and this has probably been said on previous interviews as well, this word of intuitive or sensitive is really a way that a lot of people prefer to be coined nowadays. I mean, it's just a word, but I mean, if I said that you were psychic, you could probably go along with that as well.
I would. I would do that. I think that there's a stigma with that word. And people don't, a lot of it working intuitives, they don't like that word because of, Miss Cleo and other individuals who have kind of hidden out in the dark folds of this career and, sold snake oil. So we don't usually like to associate ourselves with that. Intuitive's like the new word, but at the end of the day, everybody understands the word psychic, so we can use it.
Okay, so when did you then move away from your career as a model and sort of become a sort of full-time, have a full-time sort of client list that was providing you a sort of income as well?
Yeah, well, I actually didn't know really what I was going to do with my life. I didn't know whether I was going to continue doing something in the fashion industry because I had all these connections. I actually considered working at an agency or kind of continuing in that field. I didn't start even doing sessions. I had no plans to actually work with people until people started emailing me and asking. And then I opened up a practice in 2013. So basically, I didn't really plan it. It just organically happened.
Okay, so initially you started on YouTube about 2008, a few different channels, and eventually you stuck with the one channel that you've got now and built that up.
Yeah.
And which is fantastic what you've done. It really is. And did you expect did you expect to attract the sort of people that you have?
What sort of people?
In the sense of that support you, that love you for who you are and what you do.
Oh, I had no idea. All I had was an incredible urge to make videos and to talk about it. And I didn't know if I was honestly cool if 5 people watched it or if 500 people watched it. The support that I have I'm just so happy with it, and I'm just so glad to be able to connect with everybody, and it makes me so happy. But I had no idea what trajectory it would be. There weren't a lot of people doing it at the time, so I didn't know, all I knew was that I was having experiences, and there were certain YouTube channels that were putting out really great alternative information, and I did it as a thank you almost, or I wanted to do my part.
How is your sort of family as well taken to what you're doing now as well? What's their perception of what's going on?
I think, truthfully, I think that they thought I was going to grow out of it, and they're like, oh, she's into the things. They're not very spiritual, and then eventually it was like, oh, she's making YouTube videos, and then it was she's opening a business. So I think that they've, I think that they're at peace, that they have a very strange child, and I think that they're okay with it. I think they would honestly prefer that I do something else, though. Probably. Okay. For sure.
Well, it's just interesting to hear what support you've got around you in the sense of immediate family. So you've really had to fight your way, not fight them, but you've had to find your own support and really find your own truth and really be grounded in the sense that this is what you're doing. You trust it, and most importantly, it's your purpose. It's what you love to do. It's what you get. It's not classed as a job for you in a sense.
No, tooth and nail. I have chosen this over comfort. Whether it be with social circles, I had a lot of social circles in fashion, and some of those relationships did not survive. Because when you go into this industry, you're a polarizing person. You're talking about belief systems, so it's hard to, I think, be neutral about that kind of thing. So no, I've actually, many different times I've had to face a decision socially and with my family. I can choose to be accepted and do that, or I can choose to be happy. I can choose to genuinely be happy. And over a course of, 5-6 years, I consistently chose to be happy, and I consistently chose to follow my heart. And it's meant losing relationships and straining family relationships. But it has been the best decision I could have ever made, because I'm incredibly happy with what I'm doing. So.
Well, that's really good, and I think that's an inspiration for anyone watching this who's going through or has gone through the same thing. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Absolutely not. No way. No, and nothing is. That's worth it at the end. Books that influenced you as well on the journey.
Books I haven't read. I just did a book recommendation video, actually. I haven't read a lot of books. I went through a phase where I really wanted to tap into my information and my unique voice, and I felt like if I was reading a lot, that I would, I wouldn't be able to know if it was my information or if it was somebody else's. So, but I
Very difficult.
Yeah, but I really have a lot of respect for anybody who's written about ETs. I like the pioneers that have done things, through Hay House, like, Colette Baron Reed, Doreen Virtue, and even those great mediums that like, you know, go throughout the crowds and call people up. Like the first wave people I really love, but I don't have like any books that I'm really reading right now, but.
No, and I know you're not the only one to say what you've said about the influence from other material and not wanting to influence. So I can completely resonate with what you're saying. I think if you had done, I think you would have still been okay. But this is your path. This is your truth. This is the way you want to do it, and this is what worked for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, when you're doing these videos, where is this information coming from, as far as you understand it?
Yeah, so it's coming from my higher self. I can say my higher self, which is really, if we wanted to look at that, it would just basically be like my guides. If I wanted to personify my higher self, it would be spirit guides. And I have different guides that basically deal with different aspects of life, essentially. And so depending on what I make a video on, a different guide comes through. And of course, these spirit guides are just different aspects of my oversoul, of who I am. And we all share at large one consciousness. Kind of complex, but...
No. So when you're connecting with that aspect of yourself, let's call it that's bringing that information through, you're not taking any power away from yourself to say that you're not lovable enough for it to come from you, in a sense, that you have this knowledge that's available by connecting to this oversoul, this higher self.
Yeah, no, it's just me. It's all me. Just a different dimension of me. And I'm a conscious channel, so the information does merge with my consciousness here. So it does merge with Gigi, but the actual sparks of knowledge are just downloaded from a higher level. It's all basically me, but it's just, I guess it's just a direct connection with a higher part of me. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And that higher party, that's so interesting. And we've all got this oversoul, this higher self, where we can all go within to find the answers that we're looking for.
Absolutely. It's always talking to you. It's talking to you when you don't want it to talk to you. It's talking to you when you want it to talk to you. It's always talking to you. It's just a matter of getting quiet enough and wanting to learn the language.
Yeah, and what advice would you give to people to sort of discover what that language is? Is it a conversation like this in their head? Is it the person's voice in their head speaking as they were doing, but that private conversation in their head, is that a part of them that's this wise, all-knowing essence that's we're connecting to?
Yeah, a lot of the time it is dialoguing. That's kind of a form of claircognizance or clairaudience. These are different categories of psychic ability. But you can ask a question and you will get a response. And that's one really great way to develop your intuition, is to simply dialogue with your higher self. Of course, set the intention. The other thing that is which is imperative is that you get good at meditation. Meditation is essentially the conscious raising of your frequency. These are beings, and this is an aspect of your consciousness that is on a different dimension. So you have to raise your frequency to connect with that, and you do that through meditation. So if you're just trying to dialogue and your mind is at 90%, you're in that mind, you're thinking, you're spinning it, you're probably not going to get good information. You're just going to get your mind's information. If you pull that back to 30% and you let your heart come forward and you're still in your vessel and you're quiet, then you're going to start getting that information falling in.
Yeah, and I suppose, it's so much trust to and I've said this in so many interviews, but it's so much trust to go with that, to believe that you're able to do this, and that it's there, and that you're going to hear this part of you that's always been there. It's difficult, isn't it, for some people?
It's difficult, and it usually sounds like you. And that's the thing that throws everybody off when they start out, is it sounds like you. It sounds like you're talking to yourself. But The more that you listen, the more that you write down what they say, the more that you surrender to it little by little, not a big thing, but little by little, the more you realize this is a different voice. This isn't me. I couldn't have known that. Or you start to notice a different feeling. And it is very difficult, but it doesn't have to be done all at once. It's like a little by little thing.
Yeah, and so is the meditation as well, to be able to get to that point. I mean, do you meditate daily?
I did. That's how I started to have realizations that I had guides. I used to meditate for 45 minutes a day. I was super lonely. Like, I think I was in Japan at the time, and I didn't speak any Japanese, and I didn't know anybody. Everyone spoke Russian, or they were Brazilian, and I was just like, So I just meditated, and then it sort of, popped in. So you change your frequency. You open yourself up when you meditate, and that's the number one thing that anybody can do.
Yeah, and we're not talking about opening up ourselves to negative things, neither, are we?
No, not unless you've got something in there that wants to talk. I mean, at the end of the day, what we communicate with in the spirit world is a direct mirror of what's going on internally. And not only is it a mirror, further, you're in control of your experience. At no point are you a victim in the astral. At no point are you a victim to a negative entity. It's just, that's just not how it is. That is something that I believe has been developed by religion. And, I'm just going to say it, religion is a business. And at the end of the day, they don't want people to connect with spirit by themselves. So, demons. So, negative entities. It's keeping people dependent on priests, on things like that. There are negative entities. Like, I can't lie about that. There are negative entities. There are beings like that. But as for being powerless to them, that's not true.
No, that's right, and yeah, probably just even around us right now, there's a lot of traffic in a sense. Probably just around us right now in this very moment, and around the viewers as well. There is probably a lot of traffic with all sorts of things going on that we don't really understand what's really going on or why it's happening. But I don't think it's all negative. That's right. I think there's probably low astral beings in a sense that are here because they've not had their reasons for not moving on, but it doesn't make them super negative. Okay, there's a poltergeist case and stuff like that, but maybe there's even bigger reasons for those happening.
Yeah, there's a lot of different dynamics that we haven't really understood. And I think that actually in the coming years, the next 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, I think we're going to have a lot more understanding around poltergeist activity and sort of the more, mysterious, scary things. I think there will be more understanding.
Maybe it's a future life aspect coming back just to shake us up.
It could be. Very possible.
Yeah, he jokes about that, but yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Okay. Yeah, and I know your work just go into the you've gone more into the UFO side right now. And we're just about to get into that as well. But in a sense, I mean, how would you class your work in the videos? If someone's going to come across your channel, obviously you would probably say they've come across for a reason, of course. But what would they expect to get in a sense?
You would probably expect to get a spiritual hodgepodge of things about the cosmos. Galactic information, I feel like, is the cutting edge of spirituality. I really feel that way. I feel like that's sort of where things are going in the spiritual community. But you'll also get a lot of traditional stuff, self-development, self-help. I try to go really far into esoterica, but then I also try to, give practical solutions and videos for everyday things. So it'd be a bit of a hodgepodge, I hope.
Well, that's so important, isn't it? Because,
yes.
We haven't left our bodies yet. We are here. And as far as we understand what this reality is and what consciousness is, and I think, as long as we're here, it's so important to be here. And I think that's one thing your videos do, and the information that's within them, is they really do help you, they coach you, don't you? I mean, that's what you class yourself as, an intuitive consultant and spiritual development coach. But they really do, and I think that's what's important about your work, is it's very grounded in the moment now, in the present moment.
Oh, thank you. It's important.
Yeah, it really is. Now, we're going to touch on the bigger subjects here right now, but only to sort of bring that teaching into the moment now, and that's what I'm hoping for. Or that's what I try to do. Consciousness, in a sense. That's what it's. This is a big part of this work right now that you're doing, I think. Who are we really? What is this that we're able to identify each other and have this conversation right now and know that we are, and that we're aware of we don't feel controlled by anything. We are an individual unit. It's that trying to figure out what the consciousness, isn't it? That's what's so important. That's what a lot of the good studies are going towards right now.
Yeah, consciousness. It's a really, I think consciousness is sort of this, I think that word and how it's expressed is kind of this beautiful blending of spirituality but also kind of science in a way, also kind of quantum physics.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why that term is so important and popular, is because it seems to be a more balanced description of who we are and how we work.
Yes, and absolutely, and it's this whole thing about the continuation of consciousness nowadays, and also in the UFO field, consciousness has really come into play. I mean, I was just interviewing Travis Walton just the other day, and he said it on one of the talk shows as well that he believes, his experience was there because, he sees them as loving beings, not as the Paramount Pictures presented them in Fire in the Sky, and he sees them as being very consciously evolved, he said.
Yes. Yes, many of these ET beings are at a completely different level of consciousness, completely different vibration, if you will. And yeah, I don't really think that, sometimes I actually see Hollywood as being kind of accurate. I think that Spielberg's into some things, and so is George Lucas. But yeah, I think that for the most part, I think it's been way more fearful than it should be. But Avatar was actually very similar to Syrian beings, very similar to that. So it is there, but yeah, well, he would be right. He would be right.
Fear sells. I mean, it does sell tickets. I mean,
yes, it does.
It does. I mean,
it causes nightmares.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, well, yeah. I don't mind horror too much. I just don't like the gross stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff. I just can't do it.
You can't unsee it. You cannot unsee it, and that's I'm with you.
No, not at all. I mean, I don't mind the Freddy Kruegers and all that. I mean, that wasn't too bad, but some of them were really, really bad. But I think more sensitive people. I think that's something that it seems to be the more sensitive you are sometimes, the less you like horror. That seems to be the few people I've met seems to be the case.
I think it can greatly affect people. No, I agree with you. I mean, for me, I cannot watch like Paranormal
Activity
1, 2, 3, 4 because it's like the subtle things. I'm like, no, I'm not watching that. I don't want that in here.
The problem is with them as well is they're not real.
They're not real. But like, I think that actually a lot of horror violence that can actually fracture your psyche. It can cause splits and fissures and fractures, and that's why I think people avoid them, is because it is a disconnective experience. The shock can be fun, but it's also a fracturing. So I think that's why people stay away from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I like a good story though. So
yeah, well, yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's all entertainment. People need to be entertained, and that's what it's there for, in a sense. I'm sure on other civilizations it's very different. I'm sure it is. I'm sure the entertainment. I'm sure Planet Earth is the comedy channel for a lot of star citizens out there. I bet we get really high ratings. I bet we do. Yeah. Oh look, Family Guys. I mean, Earth's on again. Look.
They're like,
yeah. So, but then, there's, as people like Dolores Cannon would have said before, this is the nursery level to come to, that consciousness comes to. There's nursery levels like this. and we are one of them. And you know, when you look at I live around the corner from a beach, and you look at all the grains of sand on the beach, and there's apparently more stars out there than there is grains of sands of all the beaches put together in the world. And that's out there in the known universe, and that's just it's just so impossible to get that round your head. What is this infinitiveness that's out there? And I think the more we look out beyond the Earth to really figure out who we are, I think the more the answers are going to come. Yes, we have to look within as well, and channeling and creative writing and things that you do are very important, and it's all going towards that. But that's where it seems to have gone for yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I think that the most beautiful thing is that they represent each other. I think the more that we go inward, the more we'll discover in space and outside, and the more that we go outside, the more that we'll discover inside. There's that yin-yang relationship where they both feed each other, and I think it's just so beautiful.
What if what you're connecting with, and some races of the ET as we think we understand it, is not what we understand at all, and the framework that we think we understand is completely wrong. I mean, really, just not how it is at all, and that where they're coming from is interdimensional. And I know this has been talked about, and you've heard this many a times, but really interdimensional in the sense in from the space where our soul carries on when we pass on. That kind of interdimensional.
How do you mean, like?
Well, when we die, where our soul goes to, and I'm sure that there's not just one level to go to. I'm sure there's maybe infinitive levels to go to, but it's coming from that kind of energy, those kind of levels. That's where a lot of these are coming from. It's not even what we think it is to be right now. We're just given this framework to work from, to think it's this way, but actually it's something quite different.
It's baby steps. I think that there's that, you're right, and that it's that constant. I think that we understand them within the context that we can right now. But for example, Arcturians, they're associated with after death. They're associated with working with souls who have done kind of atrocious things, difficult things, also mentally ill people. That is one Stargate, or one aspect of ET consciousness that does blend with the afterlife. They're known to have a portal there. Edgar Casey's also talked about this. Other intuitives, have talked about the Arcturians in this way, where technically you wouldn't want necessarily mix ETs and after death, but yet here they are. And they're also associated with angelic consciousness too. So I think that we're kind of getting more into like different dimensions, and when we pass over, we're really just changing dimensions.
Well, yes, and I know it sounds crazy. Why would someone that's why would our soul, or why would something that's coming from potentially the level that we cross over to or higher, why would it need to come into with a ship? Why would God need a spaceship in a sense? But maybe it's not even what we understand. Maybe even the craft isn't even what we think it is to be. It's not even that.
There's different types of crafts. Yeah, there's different types of crafts. So there's crafts that are just consciousness.
Yeah, they are. There you go. Yeah.
Exactly, that are just consciousness. And then there are physical crafts. And there are other physical dimensions. There are physical beings. There's beings that are light. We're really getting into so much potential and so much possibility. And also, every single ET race has a trajectory, has their own evolution. So where are you tapping into the ET races? Are you tapping into them when they had a physical form, or are you tapping into them when they were in their light bodies? So it really starts to get.
Yeah, that's see. Not you talk about this. You do is the timelines. In the sense when you're connected or others connect, what timeline in that species, what stage in that species timeline are you connecting with? Yeah. Well, on the Seth material channeled by Jane Roberts, I've said this on other interviews as well. When someone was asked to draw a picture of Seth, they drew a picture of a grey. Yeah. So that says quite a bit, actually, of what Seth potentially may have been. Even though he talked about it, he was a discarnate entity. He was he retained his consciousness as conscious as my memories and your memories would be of our life. It's not dissolved in some greater being, but it was from that side. Yet it looked like that. Now, that's not our perception of what we, what is that about?
What is that about? Well, I love that, that it was a gray. I love that. I didn't actually know that. So I thank you for telling me that. Basically, our evolution and our spirituality needs to be digested. It needs to be absorbed. Usually it's coming from inspired knowledge on some level connected with our higher selves or higher beings. And basically how we perceive those beings is going to be directly associated or in direct ratio to what we're ready to see. So at the end of the day, a lot of beings that were ETs were actually appearing as light beings. Either they were appearing as light beings or our consciousness perceived them as such, either way. Just because the goal is to not fracture our minds and terrify us. The goal is our evolution, so we're only going to perceive what we can handle. The most important thing is that the information gets through. The most important thing is that people were reading Jane Roberts' books and that they were opening. And that's the most important thing.
What information do you think you're able to bring through as well as your gift increases, as your ability, it just gets clearer with less filtering on there as well? Do you perceive that if you're going to go into this side of things, which is a fascinating, there's so many areas to go into, and you're going to go into this, I think. Would you be surprised if you bring out more expansive knowledge in a sense?
I would love to. I basically go wherever my heart points me. And whatever that is, I'm going to do it. Whether it's normal, whether it's weird, I'm going there. And if it goes expansive, or strange, then I'll go there. I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
No.
But yeah, I'll go wherever necessary.
Okay. I know we're a bit all over the houses here right now. I'm kind of doing that on purpose a little bit because it's just for everyone just to look at this differently in a sense, because I think one of the most important things is with someone like yourself is that when you bring this info, I think it's the teaching information that's able to come from it to bring that back into the present moment, as we spoke about before, when you connect with these different beings.
Yeah, it is the teaching element. I think that's what I try to focus on. I really want everybody to be able to do it, if that's what you mean.
Well, yeah, we spoke about that before, that everyone's got that ability. Yeah, absolutely, and I agree with you there. But it doesn't mean that they would do. I could say I could paint, but I'm not the best painter. I think we can, but we all have different gifts as well, don't we? Some stronger than the others.
That is, yes.
Yeah. So, but I do like to empower people to say, even though some others may be stronger, don't say, you've still got it as well.
And I say it all the time, probably too much, but I feel like we're really getting over this cycle of gurus and giving our power away to people who we believe have more spiritual significance than us, more connection. And that's why I'm a broken record with this, is because I feel like we have to. I feel like if you are talking about consciousness and you're talking about spirituality, you better tell everybody else that they can do it too, because we are healing from a lot of weird cults and religion being, kind of culty. We're healing from some strange paradigms within our consciousness that have to do with giving our power away spiritually. That's why I'm a broken record with it. And I'm kind of trying to bring balance to that.
No, I think you're a good record to be remind people about this. And I think, why does that happen? Why do we get these gurus or these... I mean, I think some mystics are okay, don't get me wrong, but maybe it's just a case, you know, Gigi, that you're always going to get good and bad. You know, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
You know, and and the bad ones that people are attracted to is a test for them. It's a test for the people. You know, if a bad one's going to start saying, well, you know, gay people are bad or whatever it may be, not that it would be as outrageous as that, but it could be, right? But that's for those people that are attracted to them to come, well, is that really my truth? Does that resonate from love?
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I know my truth, what that would be, but I'm just saying for them, yeah.
Yeah, of course. Every teacher has a purpose. Every teacher has a purpose. It may be to directly help with spirituality and evolving the consciousness, but it also might be in a backwards way where you learn your sovereignty because that person was actually after your energy. And it was more of a narcissistic teacher. There's a lot of dark folds
I've seen
in the
your video
spiritual
on that.
community.
Seen your video on that narcissistic teachers, yeah.
Well, that's what it means. Well, that's like the problem. It's rampant in the spiritual community because, unfortunately, when it comes to the other side, there's so much unknown that's where people can hide. So it's kind of rampant there. So that's why I talk about it, and that's probably why we're talking about it right now.
Well, it is, because there's a lot of books in the spiritual field, and the New Age movement, which some people hate that word. Sorry, it's just, you know, I will say it, that they're all on the same line in a sense. That they're all kind of saying the same thing, and I wonder in some of them if there's a bigger framework of information to come through that we've not been aware of before. I like a lot of the threads. A lot of the common threads are good, which is oneness. You know, what would love do in the moment now? You know, love yourself. You can love someone else. Do you know what I mean? There's common threads in them. But I just, I mean, maybe as well that the attraction to some of these spiritual teachers, the mass attractions, is also there because perhaps in past lives, you know, they've been in religions that they've had mass attractions, and it's just a repeat of cycles in a different way.
Exactly. It could very well be. There could be that magnetic karmic soul pull. Absolutely.
They abused their power with a religion before in that kind of masses, and it's to show them from a different perspective in a different way. You know, do you see in the mirror in that? But then, you know, some of the teachings are pretty good in some of them, but I'm not sure sometimes in all of it. I don't have a conclusive answer to give. Not because I'm on the fence. I'm still making my mind up as I go sometimes.
And that's awesome. At least you're taking it in and considering it. And as long as you can take something from it that is empowering, then you're in good shape. And as long as you always know that at the end of the day, you're the decider of your spiritual direction, then you're good.
What would keep you balanced from going down that road?
Going down the maniacal.
Well, and the money. Come on, the money's be good. I mean, what's wrong with money?
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with money. But you don't have to be crazy to get it. I actually believe that more money, more abundance, and a better life comes to you from just being genuine. When you're in your heart and you're just working from that place, everything is available to you, whether it be money or just friendships, or everything flows to you. When you're going against your heart and you're being manipulative, you are just compounding a really big crash for yourself, because the universe will take you out. You'll take yourself out. So if you really want abundance, if you really want money, don't be sleazy, because you'll lose it all. Or you will lose something else equivalent to it, because there is a checks and balances.
Yeah, there is. Yes. And I think what we're saying as well doesn't come from jealousy or anything silly like that. It's just where is the checks and balance in some of what's going on out there right now? I think that's what we're saying, which is
exactly.
Kind of licking your words there.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I'll nick those. Yeah, okay, well that's it. Yeah, well, and you know, I think it probably comes down to people watching this. What feels right for you? Go with that. Whatever feels right, that's should lead you to a path that will take you onto somewhere else.
Exactly. Whatever feels right for you, trust that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, sort of getting back to the ET as well. um, Now, so many races, so many races. Let me think of a few races. Well, actually, who are you in communication with right now?
My strongest guides are Pleiadian. I have some pretty strong Pleiadian guides. Well, the first guide I connected with was actually Pleiadian, so I always have a really strong connection there. But I also have a very strong connection to Arcturians and Syrian lion beings, and I also have a connection with mantids. Those are the ones that seem to come around the most for me, but I work with people every day who have different types of guides, so I do get to interact with some friggin' races that I had never even seen before or known. So I do get to see a pretty good spread of,
Okay,
you know, beings, whether or not I know them personally.
And just sort of jumping back here to your readings that you give as well. Does that connection of these different races come into the readings when you're sort of giving someone an intuitive consultation or a spiritual development side? Is that coming into that? I mean, you're not giving a reading to say, oh, Auntie Bet is here. Do you know what I mean? She's passing this message on.
That's not what I specialize in. That's not what I specialize in. That would be mediumship. And I don't specialize in that. It does happen. Just like a medium will maybe get an ET or two coming through. The capacity is there. But I really do specialize in galactic information. So not everybody requests that or is interested in that. And whenever I work with people, it's not so much about me beaking off about who's around them, or I'm really interested in what they want to know and what's important for them. And a lot of the times, galactic information doesn't come into play, but sometimes it does.
Okay, so not all the time, but sometimes if the client asks for that, basically, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and usually people, actually, it does happen quite a bit because they see the YouTube videos and then they're like, oh, so...
Yeah, absolutely. And we've linked some of the YouTube videos below, and obviously your channel's below this video as well. And it's been coming up on the screen as well. And your website as well has been coming up on the screen. And your website, just for the audience,
is gigiyoung.com, just my name.
Excellent. Okay, and that's where people can get in contact with you for a reading and more, basically. What would you say is some of the sort of themed messages coming through from these various species that you're in contact with, in a sense? I mean, what's the underlying message to us?
Well, each race has a theme. Each race has a message. Each race has a very particular energy. At the end of the day, that's why there are different races coming forward, is because they do have different messages. Pleiadian energy is very much about the rise of the divine feminine, and it's all about how to get in touch with that, with your intuition, with your heart. If you want to tune into Andromedan information, it's all about creation. It's all about how you can manifest your reality, how you can take control, third chakra stuff, creation. If you get into Syrian, like lion beings, it's all about what is your purpose and confidence and ego. It's development of the ego. So it depends on which race you want to know. Another race that's actually really strongly coming forward is actually hybridized beings. So beings that are a mix of human and ET, gray ET. And they're a great source of information because they contain the same genetic codes, and therefore they can help us get to the next level of where we are. So that's sort of a little bit of a layout of who's helping us and what's there.
That's really interesting. And is Christianity or Islam one of the main religions with these, or have they maybe moved past that?
I don't think that they're coming through I think if they were working with priests or anyone involved in religion, I don't think that they would necessarily come through in their form. I think they would probably change their form to be something that was more digestible, as they have in the past. I don't know if religion's really talking about it very much. I don't know if they honestly would get too into it.
Well, I actually meant on behalf of the ET races as well.
Oh.
It kind of not a joke, but in a sense that I don't think Islam or Christianity are things that are mentioned.
They do. I mean, I've connected with people who are healing from some stuff that's happened, like some belief systems that weren't good, with religion, like shame or guilt and things like that. And then sometimes ETs will chime in on the life of Jesus or different religions to just to give some helpful perspective. But I don't know of any one that I personally worked with that would be directly talking about religion. I don't know if they think that it's such a good thing.
No, I mean, it always scares me, to think of any religion entering into outer space and colonizing other planets. Just don't know. I don't know. Is it a good thing? Would if I was an ET, would I want religion in space? Probably not. Somehow, I don't know. I think the loving aspects of it are fine, but I think that some of the controlling aspects of it aren't really helpful towards one another sometimes. I wonder, though, if a race is even 100 years ahead of us, what is the potential of what it's moved on to and its understanding of consciousness, and in that sense, spirituality? I wonder what 100 years could do, let alone 1,000.
Yeah, I think that some of the things that they've told me is that religiosity is a mindset, first and foremost. So it's something that a certain level of consciousness does to create security. When we talk about religion, we're really talking about spiritual security. But religiosity at its core is actually a mindset. I know a lot of religious vegans. I know a lot of religious people about health. I know a lot of religious people that don't go to church every Sunday. So it is actually a construct that we have. So that's what they've actually been trying to drill in my head. These beings that are from, different time ahead is that, it's a mindset, and it's something that you do to create security. So you can hopefully, I guess, expand.
I always wonder if it's a way for a soul to have an experience of restriction.
Yeah, and sometimes I think that restriction and security can be kind of almost intertwined in that way, where if it starts as security, but then it just turns into restriction.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes you could say, well, is it any easier than having spirituality in your life? Because you're still left with the thing of, well, okay, we're making up the truth as we go along, in a sense, with what feels right, with evidence-based, with well, I guess some evidence-based, but really, I suppose the evidence base is our own truth. You've created your own truth by having this ability that you've got, this intuitive ability. That's your truth, which may be a different truth to someone else. But is it any easier in a sense sometimes? Well, don't know. I don't think it takes the pain away from life, does it? Sometimes.
No, I think actually the opposite can happen. I think sometimes you can start out on a spiritual journey and all your pain comes forward. Everything that you're afraid of can come forward. It can actually be the opposite.
So true. That's so true, and you can end up walking away from it.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it does. Any issues that you've not dealt with will be brought to the surface, most definitely.
Spirituality is really about responsibility. It's about healing. Everybody has a spirit, and spirituality is just the connection to it for your own expansion. So you can actually just connect. Everybody's expanding naturally. I think spirituality is just the ability to, or the practice of connecting with your spirit. So you're expanding in the right direction. So expansion is law. So let's expand in the right direction. That's sort of how I see it, but that it can be painful, So.
I mean, it does seem a bit crazy sometimes, doesn't it? That a soul, that's just the word I'm using for the potential of what we may be beyond this body, but a soul having a sort of being all knowing and knowing its connection to everything, and just knowing its true truth in a sense, or a truth. Maybe when we cross over, maybe we're still searching for our truth. Maybe when we cross over, we're channeling to higher levels above us, just like what you're channeling to the level that's above us right now, a level that we'll all go to. Maybe when we cross over, each level, each dimension, if you want to look at it like that, is channeling to one another to try to find out the truth. So when you cross over, and you maybe then, as a soul, can go to a next level. But even when you get onto that next level, you're still no wiser on ultimate truth, because there's levels above.
Absolutely. And I think the ultimate truth almost kind of turns in on itself and becomes what is your truth. And when you know your truth, you finally have access to the ultimate truth. You finally know the language. I think that's also, because everything works in paradoxes like that.
So going back to what I was trying to say as well, if that even is a truth, that concept that we've just sort of described there, could that be a reason why a soul would want to have to forget who it is and come down and have this experience of healing from issues that it never had before it even got here? Because as soon as you incarnate into this reality, which seems to have a veil over it, with the free will that's associated with it, you can cause pain to yourself and others straight away, because you've got freedom to do that.
Yeah, you absolutely do. You're sort of, and through that pain and through all that, disconnection, all that's left is your core, is who you truly are. And I think that's why we forget everything, because once you forget everything and then you go through the pain, what's left is your true self, which is the purpose, and all of the knowledge of remembering.
Yeah. And is that the sort of information that you've brought through at all in the channelings that you've... Can I use that word, channelings?
Sure.
Yeah. In the receivings, I'm going to change it, you see. In the receivings that you've done with the various races that you're in contact with?
Yeah, it's pretty much... that's pretty much it. We forget in order to remember, and it's always something in line with that. You can really get to the kernel of things if you forget, and then through your experience who you are.
Yeah, but why did I have to forget the bank account, the offshore bank account? I mean, why couldn't I have remembered the key code for that? Life would have been so much simpler. God damn them. Yeah, I said, okay, that's interesting then. And there's many researchers in the field of the UFO where they're looking at it from a very negative standpoint, because that's the only evidence they found. It's very negative. Like Dr. David Jacobs, it's all about there's an abduction going on, there's a hybridization program going on, people are being abducted against their will, and there's embryos being taken, and there's some sort of new breed being created. But then there's the others who actually think they are that breed and are living down here right now, think they are a hybrid, and they're the most loving, gentle people that you can meet, and they feel that they're here to make a difference to the planet in a way that couldn't have happened had they not had they not chosen to have this experience as a hybrid.
Yeah, both dynamics exist. And there were abductions. There were genetic programs. I don't agree with the kind of like part of the New Age movement where it's like, don't ever focus on anything negative. I don't think that's very healthy. But so that did happen. But the abduction scenarios that actually involve zetas have dwindled down to almost nothing. They came around when we went nuclear. So we were already open in portholes like a boat. I meant like wormholes. And things were going on, and we were very dark. So we, of course, had the ability to attract. We had an attraction point for that kind of thing to happen. They did also go to our government, and our government gave them permission. So it's not actually as much of a betrayal as sometimes people feel. On a higher level, there was permission given as well. So you really have to look at everything going on. So that did happen. That absolutely did happen. But there is by far more helpful, beautiful information that is geared towards expansion of consciousness and healing than there is negative. And if you choose to focus on negative, I would say that you have an addiction to fear. And that's why, I mean, out of all the stuff that's out there, there's way more empowering stuff. So you have people, you can get real addicted to fear, because if you're not afraid, then suddenly it's like you're drawn into self-responsibility. The victim mentality is a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, so you do believe that there were races that came here with not the best intent towards us, but it's not here as much now. That's what you're saying.
That's what I understand.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like I think we said before, there's good and bad in everything, isn't there? And it's a big universe out there. So
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I should probably add. The government does abductions too. So.
Right. Okay.
You have to, yeah.
That very interesting. Maybe that's part of the race that some of these other theorists talk about as well. Even like David Icke talks about, this lizard type race that didn't have our best interest at all.
Yes.
Yeah, well, maybe there's something I would say there is something there connected, definitely with what you're saying. Very, very, very interesting. But then again, some of these abductions, maybe they were there because they, whatever race was abducting, even the Palladians, maybe, was due to a past life connection with the people that they were bringing on board, or for whatever purpose.
Absolutely. There's been a lot of genetic blending involving the Pleiadians. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. What is some of the more what really is incredible that's come across through your information recently? Is there anything that's been like, wow, that's kind of out there?
I don't know. I feel like every day I'm always like, wow, new information. I think the biggest wow thing, and it's not just, this isn't something that I've just said, but it's something that I feel like other channelers and intuitives have all tapped into, and that's why it's kind of a wow thing, is everybody's talking about this year, and especially the fall-winter of this year, being a very significant time for human development. This year being a time of the curtain coming down on a lot of different people, a lot of different organizations, and people's true colors being revealed, things being revealed. And I think that's really significant, especially with a focus on the end of this year and the beginning of 2017, with some real change taking root and some real consciousness coming through. So I think that's been the most wow information. And also because we've been really amping up for this since 2012. So I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, even in the UK right now, we've got a lot of transparency cases with the Panama Papers, where the UK government's, had offshore accounts, and they've all been exposed. Even the Prime Minister, his father had an offshore account, which is causing him a bit of problems right now. And there's a lot of the MPs, disclosing their earnings. And so when you mentioned that, I just, even though that's just over here, there's a lot more going on than just that. But yeah, you're right. There is a lot of transparency sort of taking place, and I think whatever's happening now is just the beginning of it. For this, like you say, this is rippling well into next year, because I mean, this year only probably started properly in March. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly. Just the beginning of this transparency, and the checks and balances. That's what we were just talking about that before. That's what it is right now. So
in your country, you look at not your country. Sorry, I mean your Canada. I mean in
I'm
America.
actually in Texas right now, so you're kind of right.
Oh, okay then. Well, in your country, right? Yeah, with Donald Trump, I mean, he really is bringing the ugly side out of people, of America. He's bringing the racist side out, and he's exposing it all. And maybe that's supposed to be. Maybe he won't win, but he's meant to be there to bring that ugly side of America out.
I really view Donald Trump as being a really transformational person. I think that having having him out there doing his thing, I mean, he has actually pulled the skirt up to a lot. Mm-hmm. I actually think he's done his job. I mean, I think that he's done his job in exposing so much, a lot about racism, and I think Bernie Sanders has actually exposed a lot about racism as well. I think they both have been they're both equals, I think, in they're both kind of equals, I feel, in their impact. But yeah, I think that people in huge numbers are starting to doubt the voting system. Voting fraud has been exposed as huge. Social media has really helped with that, but it is just
there's huge
coming down.
Huge fraud going on right now, apparently, in the primaries. Yeah, if that's what if this is the primaries, I think that I was reading something earlier on about the voter fraud, potential voter fraud that's maybe going on. So yeah, no, it is. So I only mention these things. I know they're out of the realm of what we're talking about, but just what you talked about a year of the start of this transparency. Most definitely, you can see it. It's happening. So yeah, I think you're dead right there. Okay, what would be? Is there anything that you might like to touch on as well? Because I don't want to just close this off and not have covered something that you might like to cover as well.
I'm just going with the flow. I'm just happy to be here.
Okay, well, that's nice. I'm happy to have you here. Don't worry about that. I know that we've been sort of, like I said before, a bit all over the place, but there's in my reality, there's just a bigger framework that seems to be coming to me in all the people that I'm interviewing, and it's more than what's been written out there, and I'm banging on and saying the same thing, but it just seems to be we think we know, but we maybe don't quite know. Maybe the reality that we're bringing through right now and the understandings that we have is true to a point, but it was only put there to get us to a point, and maybe there's something bigger that we've just starting to see the threshold of, maybe.
I think that you just explained the natural pattern of expansion of consciousness. I think that's it.
Yeah, because I wouldn't want to take anyone's work away and say, well, that's just rubbish. Not rubbish, but that's not true, or that's not a reality. No, it is a reality. It's just it's like a ladder, isn't it? Yeah.
Everybody builds on top. I feel like we all really build on top of everybody's work, if that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the next generation of people talking about spirituality will probably point out flaws in my work, in other people who do what I do's work, and find better ways of explaining things, better answers.
You see, I don't know so much. Maybe it's rather than seeing your work as a flaw. I would say that they maybe in the future it will just be another expansion of the framework. It just be it wouldn't take, without what you've done and people like yourself doing. You can't get to the next framework. So I wouldn't say it's flawed.
Yeah. It's kind of like every teacher or speaker has to take the raw information and then structure it, give a framework for where consciousness is now. So when consciousness grows, the pieces that were for this time have to be shed in order to make more sense.
Absolutely, and going back to your work as well, the non-flawed work. Going back to your work, what's really important as well is that there'll be so many souls that come across your videos in many years to come. Because I mean, those videos aren't going nowhere. That it will mean so much to them as to the people it touches now. So that's how needed they are. It's a lifetime's work.
Well, that's such an intimidating thought, but I would just be so happy if people found them and found if they found any level of peace. I feel like I'm happy.
Finally, as well, what other YouTubers in this field do you resonate with as well?
Oh, I love Bashar. He's not a YouTuber, but I feel like he's been amazing in paving the way. I love Abraham Hicks. I watch their stuff all the time. Well, not all, I used to more, but yeah, I like their YouTube channels. And yeah, there's a lot of other great YouTubers talking about ETs and consciousness. You have, I can't remember. I believe Krista Riza talks a lot about ETs.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, she does ETs. I can't remember. I'm at a loss. But if you just go into YouTube and you type in any spiritual subject, you'll probably find some girl in front of a talking about it. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a younger generation coming through as well right now, which I just had someone on that was she was 20, a young lady called Courtney, and she wasn't channeling. No, she wasn't channeling ET, but she was receiving, teachings from God. That's what the book was called, and it was just, 20. It was just incredible that as someone said in a comment, maybe that the world's in good hands for the future.
I mean, 20 years old, talking. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think we would be.
Yeah. But my point is that it's not just her. There's many others as well that haven't yet come forward that have this ability as well. And I think I hope that they watch this and that they do, and that they can connect with you and see the encouragement from you and what the process that you went through as well to get there as well.
Yes, hopefully it will help. I think that at the root our processes are similar, so hopefully.
What would you say is the most important message of your work, or could you?
I would say the most important message, there's a few I feel like naturally circle back around. Be in your heart. Your heart is not just a chakra or a part of you. It is actually a different level of perception. When you tune into your heart and you bring your focus there, you see the world differently. You see people differently. You see situations differently. It's different. It's a place. It's a perception. Tune into that, live from that, and everything will flow. That's where we're meant to be. It's the center of our being for a reason, because it's taking information in from both levels. That is the balanced place. So I would say, learn how to connect with that language, learn how to speak it, and everything will become art. Everything will become art, and you'll see beauty everywhere. The second thing I feel like I'm usually centered around is play. Have fun. Oh my gosh, don't get too serious. If you're too serious, you're too in your head. Bring play to everything, and doors will open, connections will open, answers will come that will not come in an energy where play isn't there. Play is so important. Laughter is so important.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, back to make it work. Yeah.
Oh my God, no.
No, it's so true. I think throughout this interview we've had a laugh, and I like that, because I think that's needed. Yeah, I sometimes need that, because everyone's different, but I think what you're saying there is so true. And I'll add one thing is, be yourself. If you're doing something that you think others won't like, as long as you're not intentionally hurting anyone or yourself, there's nothing wrong. Just be yourself.
Yeah, just
do what
be
you
yourself.
love to do.
Even if you don't get yourself, keep going with it, because it will make sense. And just be yourself. Absolutely. It will.
Okay, right. Well, I've really enjoyed this interview. I will say to you that I think that I feel for you that you've got the ability to bring, as you have done, fantastic information through, and don't be surprised if there's even more information that wants to come through, and this is just the start of your journey, which you think you've been doing for so many years now. You may just be at the start.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. I really hope that happens. I'm ready.
You are definitely ready.
Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing, because what you're doing is you're like a bridge, where you're asking questions to people to help usher people in who may not understand, you're asking the questions that people need to understand that, mystics might not think to explain. So you're actually helping bring some common sense into this whole arena. And I thank you for that.
That's fine. Thank you very much. I'm going to thank you for that. That's very, very kind of you. I appreciate that. Well, Gigi Young, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.